Hi, this is Dr. Jerry Cronin here. Hold on. There we go. There we go. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you basically how you're dissecting your brain this week. I have a sheep's brain just like you would, and literally what it has here on the outside of it is the dura mater. And if you look at it, it's awfully very, very tough. I'm going to cut through this a little bit here. See if I can remove some of it. And here's the dura mater. And if you look at the dura mater, you're going to see how tough it is. And when you take it off, I'd like for you to try to rip it. It's extremely tough, very, very difficult. And if you notice here, where the longitudinal fissure is, this here has an awfully hard surface. This is like that sheet, when if we go to put a sheet in, like a bed, we'd lay it on the bed, we'd put a pillow on the top, we'd take the sheet, bring it up, and then back over again. So that area right underneath that pillow is going to be double layered. That's the same thing that's happening here. When we look at this here, I'm going to take tweezers, and I'm going to pull at it. This little clear spot is the pia mater. These black things, these are the remnants of the blood. Now, this is the anterior, this is the posterior, and we can see here, if I turn it underneath, and a lot of the cranial nerves are missing, but this is going to be the attached to the spinal cord. This would be the medulla oblongata. And then over here, let's see if I can remove some of this here without too much damage. There we go. This is the pons and the midbrain. And if you notice right here, this is a cranial nerves that are coming off, cranial nerves that are coming off here. This is our optic nerve, cranial nerve number 3. This is our olfactory nerve here. We're missing most of it. The olfactory bulb is missing there. But literally what it would be doing is hanging here. Once again, that's our anterior. Now, let's look at some of these things here. First off, we talked about the longitudinal fissure, and that's separating the hemispheres. We have these little indentations, and those grooves are called sulcus or sulci. These little bumpy parts that kind of remind me of a quilt, that's going to be the gyrus. And this is going to be labeled according to the same way that when we studied bones, we're going to label it the same exact way. So this is going to be the frontal. We're going to have the parietal here. We'll have the temporal on the side and the occipital in the back. I just want to remove a little bit more of this dura mater here if I can, without damaging too much. There we go. So, and back here, I've now exposed the cerebellum. Cerebrum, cerebellum. The cerebellum, if you notice, doesn't have the same little grooves on it. What it's going to have is it has a thing called folia. That coverage, I'm going to cut these cranial nerves so that I can take this dura mater off. And don't forget, the cranial nerves are just basically, there's a lot of them. See them right in there? As I pull this open. And if I can cut this. We have here, it's hard to see, but right here, that's our pituitary gland. Right in here. Now, if we look at this, I'm going to take this.
Okay, you're good. I have the next class,
What time? Can I ask?
12:30.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I'm going to take the brain here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it down the longitudinal line here, down the longitudinal fissure. I'm going to remove this cerebellum here. And if we open this up here, we can see here, this is the ventricle. Inside the ventricle, we're going to be having the CSF is being made. Inside there is the appendable cells. And what happens is that they actually wrap together with the capillaries. And as they wrap with the capillaries, they then create the choroid plexus. The capillaries and the choroid plexus basically are making the CSF fluid. And that's filling this ventricle here. This area here, surrounding this, is the corpus callosum. I have here, and once again, this is the brain stem. I have the midbrain, the pons, the medulla oblongata, and probably just a little tiny bit of the spinal cord right here. I'm going to remove that, and in removing that, I'm now exposing here the vermis. The vermis is the thing that basically separates the two hemispheres here. On our cerebrum, we had gyrus and sulci. Here we're going to have what is little bumps, basically. It kind of looks like little lines, is going to be folio. I'm going to cut this in half. A sagittal cut. And we can see the white material there. That's the arbor vitae. That's the white material. The arbor vitae. If I take the cerebrum here and I give it a a frontal or a coronal cut, we're going to see that the material on the inside of the brain, we have the outside here, which is going to be dark, gray matter, and the inside is going to be mostly white. That's the ventricle still there. Whereas with our spinal cord, and I don't think the spinal cord is going to be here. I think this is too... You can't really see it here. But if we could see it, if we saw the spinal cord, it would be the opposite. This is going to be the brainstem. The opposite of the spinal cord would be dark on the inside, white on the outside. It's opposite of what the brain is, the CNS. Now, I'm just going to move this out of the way. And I just want to review with a brain model. There's our brain. This is the anterior. This is the posterior. So this is the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, right? The temporal lobe, and the occipital lobe. Here they're showing us right here, we're going to have our olfactory bulbs, cranial nerve number 1. Here is where our cerebellum would be, attached to the back. This is our brain stem. We can see here the optic nerve. It would come out to each eye, and the optic chiasm. When we open this up, we're going to see the corpus callosum, and this indentation here, along with them, this one's going to be the lateral ventricle, and then this is going to work down to be the third and the fourth ventricle. And obviously they're the same on each hemisphere. When we do the cerebellum, I'm going to take the cerebellum, excuse me. I'm going to open it up. Here's the vermis that we discussed. I'm going to open it up, and we see the white matter on the inside. This is our brain stem. This is going to be our medulla oblongata, and then the spinal cord would be here. Then we're going to have the pons and the midbrain, and that goes into the hypothalamus. This is nice here. Our brains don't have it. The ones that we just worked on, these have all the markings of the different cranial nerves there. Well, I hope that helped a bit. Certainly, your paper is going to have you labeling all of the and naming all of the the parts of the cranial nerves. But this is a good introduction to it as far as it goes. If you have any questions, I'm here. Thanks. And I look forward to seeing your videos.